It does look like Charizard. You know another... It might have just used the Charizard model, because you know what game came out
Pokemon Stadium
on Nintendo 64 in 2000? Pokemon Stadium, that's right.
No
it really
way.
does look ridiculously like Charizard.
This game is garbage then, because Pokemon Stadium actually looked good.
There is a form of multimedia entertainment beyond that which is good. These games are as vast in number as they are terrible. They dwell in the dark recesses of history, unearthed from the pits of the bargain bin. These are the games of horror. This is Garbage Game Night.
Welcome to Garbage Game Night, the podcast where we hop through time, pick out the worst games imaginable. I live with them for several days until they consume me and I start to go a little mad, and my lucky guests here are only subjected to them for a couple hours, and that's what we're about to do here. We're still in quarantine, so we're playing some games remotely on Steam where there's no technical difficulties at all. There's also no shortage of bad games. So I've got to introduce the panel first here, though. So first, Frank, how you doing over there, Frank?
Oh, I'm doing good. I barely made it to this in time. I lost track of time because I know I was like, oh, we're doing it later. Oh man, I got all this time. And then I looked at the clock. Oh, I gotta take a shower. I was in the garage cleaning the garage.
To take a shower before you go to the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Got to be presentable.
I don't want you guys to smell me through the computer. You know, it wasn't great. So. I'm still waiting on dinner. We still haven't eaten because we were busy. So at one point, I might be.
Oh man.
But it's not right now.
Oh
right?
yeah.
I'll try to keep away from the microphone. All right. And then Chris can choose.
I appreciate that.
Keep or get
I
rid
move
of it
away
later
from the
in
mic
post.
to chew.
I'll keep it in post. Perfect. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good. Hey, no one's ever asked me before. I'm doing well, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, I just realized I kind of caught everyone off guard there. Maybe.
I'm doing well. I've been playing terrible games, and my wife the other day thought I was like playing a game for enjoyment. I'm like, no, this is for business. I'm not enjoying this at all.
So it's not for pleasure.
No, not for pleasure.
Specifically
for work.
for pain.
And I hate it. And Hunter, how you doing?
Is this podcast already a job for you?
No, it's fun. It's fun to do this. It legitimately is. It's, there's time crunches, there's deadlines sometimes, you stress yourself out, but I have a lot of fun doing it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want you to not enjoy it.
No, that would be counterproductive. That wouldn't be the point of quarantine, right? You got to enjoy yourself. You got to live your best life.
I wish I could go back to like 15 years old, and that would be like the best.
Oh yeah.
Quarantine, because I just would have played like Call of Duty and Super Smash Brothers like nonstop.
Yeah, I would have got back into an MMORPG.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I would. Yeah.
I wonder if
There's no
WoW's
time for that, though.
subscription base has like risen because of
I'll bet
all
it
this.
did. How about you, though, Hunter? You're usually the one who gets to try out new games, playing anything new and exciting over there?
I mean, as you know, I'm currently playing Doom Ultimate because
It's true,
told
you
me
are.
to, and I
did give everyone a little homework assignment.
I think I've played like 2 minutes of this game in the past. I've been playing it for like over an hour already, and
Nice.
quite enjoying it. Very simple, obviously. Kind of afraid to learn why this game is pertinent.
Well, yeah, since we brought it up, I did ask each of you to either, if you could play the game or at least watch some playthroughs of a few videos of a couple different games. So Hunter, first, you're playing Doom. It's called Ultimate Doom over there, which is the bundle together of Doom original and all its expansions. That's the DOS version of Doom. What kind of impressions you got from that?
It was a little weird getting used to because there is no like, I think it's the Y-axis. There is no up and down, so I was trying to aim at the heads of my enemies, and
Right.
instead it was just like slowing me down. It's actually, I'm surprised at how much there is in it. Like every level, as I beat it, it's like, oh, you've killed 50% of the enemies and found like 0% of the secrets, and I'm like, I thought I like pretty heavily explored that and hit spacebar on every wall that I could find that looked even remotely weird. But nah, so there seems to be a lot more into this game than I had imagined first. And I gotta say the AI is, it's nothing special, but like
They look at you and they try and kill you, right?
yeah. Well, and I mean, like a lot of the AI in today's games feels a little like overcomplicated, or they end up just bunching together and you just throw a grenade at them. These guys just come at you and try to shoot you. No funny
Yeah,
business.
it's simple, but it works, right?
And they'll follow you pretty far. Like I turned a corner and figured I'd lost him, and now he came up behind me and shot me in the back.
I feel like Demon Hellspawn wouldn't have very much in the way of tactics anyway. You know, like they would just be like
pure hatred and murder. Yeah. Tom or Frank, any memories of playing original Doom? Is that something you've ever done before?
I played it. I don't think extensively, like not like to the end of the game or anything like that. Like I just played it. And for me, when I think of Doom, I instantly think of Quake.
Sure.
And I played the hell out of Quake.
I did. Okay.
Yeah, pun intended.
Yeah. Same with me. I never owned it. I mean, it came out in 1993, so I was pretty young at that point. But I had a computer, I guess, at that age. But it was games my father sanctioned. So I had a couple racing games and stuff, but wasn't murdering any. I guess you can't really murder Hellspawn. You just sort of vanquish them. So no, I never did that too much.
To be spawned again.
To be spawned again, yeah. Frank, tell us what the game that you looked into.
With my game, I was asked to play. It's coming to me. Don't worry.
You're blanking on the name of it.
Half-Life. The original.
There it is.
Lucky.
So, and I've never actually played the original Half-Life. I own it. I own every Valve game, I think, and I'm pretty sure I've never played it. I don't know. I
think at some point they give them to you.
Yeah, exactly. like, why don't you have this game yet? Just take it. God. But yeah, so already. That was interesting. Because I'd played other games based on the same like engine and stuff, and
sure, yeah, many games based on that engine,
inspired by it. But so that was interesting playing the original, and I kind of knew the gist of what to do and how it was going. But the shooting really, because it has kind of like a auto target, or maybe I could have turned that off. I don't know. I didn't go through the menu, but auto targeting was on.
Yeah, you could have turned it off.
Me up. So I was like aiming, and then it would kind of move a little bit. Yeah, so I got I don't know. A couple hours in.
You guys, that's good. I appreciate you. You got some time in there to get the feel of it. It's important. And the last one, Tom, what game did you look into?
Probably definitely my top 5 games that I've ever played. BioShock.
Oh,
nice.
I
love BioShock.
Honestly, I think that's one of those games where like if I were to ever like make a strong argument for how games can be art, then BioShock would definitely be one of them. Just like the story. And I think that might be a little bit of a running theme in the order. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it, but going from Doom to Half-Life, like I remember the beginning of Half-Life and like you're starting your first day at work, and then like things are getting crazy. And
I don't know if it was Gordon's first day at work, but it was a day at work.
Oh yeah, maybe it was just a day.
Yeah, because everyone knew him.
Oh okay. But yeah, I don't know.
Or they were just really anticipating him. It's like, oh, this is Gordon. I've heard so much about Gordon Freeman.
No, hey, Mr. Freeman. or Dr. or whatever.
It's just, I think it did a good job of like building that world, and BioShock.
Yeah.
Like just, gosh, like even like the first few seconds of it are just the exposition that they give. It's just really interesting talking about like how, creating this world where it's like, I think the quote is something to the effect of where a man gets to like keep the, sweat of his brow, and he's like, the communists say it's for everybody and the church says it's for God. And like that, it's just going through like each step. And he's like, here, it's yours. Like you can do anything you want. And then it's like just opens up
and unveils the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just majestic, like the whole game. And then like the splicers, I think they're called. Mm-hmm. They're running around and like just the atmosphere and like sound is a really big deal in that game. I don't know. It's just such a good game. And not to mention, I feel weird. Like the game's old enough now where I shouldn't be able to worry about it, but probably the best twist in any story, let alone video game. Like the best twist in any story ever.
Blew my mind for a while. Definitely enjoyed that story.
Yeah, no, awesome. That was a phenomenal game.
Failed trying to recapture that. It was like they created a masterpiece and then they were like, all right, we'll just use the exact same formula, and it just 2 falls flat on its face and 3 just feels like a reskin.
I loved 3.
Sky,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I loved
Infinite.
Bioshock Infinite.
I
yeah.
did not.
All right.
I thought Infinite.
I don't think it
To
beat,
each their own.
I don't think
It
it
is
beat
better
the
than
first
2.
one.
For
and
Bioshock Infinite, I will say they managed to do a good escort or sidekick system, I think. That I never once got frustrated that I had this other character with me the whole time. It was used for puzzles, and I don't think she was killable. So
Yeah. I think you're right.
anyway.
I don't think I ever had an issue with her.
No.
Yeah.
I think that was okay.
So yes, Tom, as you said, there's a bit of a theme that we have going this evening. We're talking about first-person shooters and how they incorporate storytelling, RPG elements. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna segue through this. Okay, I'll say it like that. But before we get into the game that we're actually
was your
playing this
segue?
evening, that's my segue. There is no segue. I'm just gonna say
Enjoy
it.
the segue that I just made up on the spot.
Before we get into the game that we're actually playing this evening, though, a couple quick things. We played Bus Simulator 2012 and Autobahn Police Simulator. We were pretty delirious by the end of that one, with Tom dropping through an infinite death loop and becoming the god of chaos. But
my God, that
was
was
there
so
any other
great.
thoughts on that you guys had?
That was
Yeah.
epic.
I actually just re-listened. I mean, I listened to the episode yesterday, and that part,
Yeah.
you could just hear how delirious and tired we were. But but that brought me back to just seeing that. And that was the most ridiculous thing. Like it was,
Yeah.
Tom got so close to actually getting back on the road, and he just couldn't.
Just trying to find the way to get back to the road.
I'm not gonna lie. I was, and that's what I was kind of saying. How like sometimes when you're dealing with something broken, it can be fun. I was
Yeah.
I was genuinely enjoying being like, all I need to do is get 3 feet onto this road. That's all.
I did kind of have an epiphany about, I skipped over a bunch of reviews. I don't think we read any of them. That so many people in the reviews for Bus Simulator were complaining that people would come onto the bus and block the doorway. And I kept thinking, like, we never experienced that. What are they talking about? And I just realized that people were describing people coming onto the bus and waiting to get their ticket. But because the tutorial never told them what to do, they probably just didn't understand what was happening. So they thought people were jamming up their bus and not sitting down. So just an epiphany I had.
Oh,
Anyway.
You asked at the end, now this is super late, but you asked at the end of the last podcast if there was anything that they could do to make it better. And I realized, I think what would be fun would be taking everything, like the mechanic. I mean, obviously if the mechanics were cleaner, like I know Hunter could barely drive that thing and it shouldn't be that bad. But if you have like all of those mechanics, but in a world that was zany, some like apocalyptic, like if there were like crazy things happening and like, but like you have to operate that bus just as you would a normal bus. You know what I mean? Like everything, like the earth is like splitting open and like crazy things are happening. But
You
it's
can't let these people down.
Yes,
You
like
have to
exactly
deliver
like
them.
like the Titanic, like the musicians at the Titanic, they're like, we're playing it all the way down, like just that bus driver, like just.
So funny you mentioned that. After I was maybe it was when I was editing, I ran into this game called Omnibus. Omnibus's description is Omnibus is a next to last gen physics game about the most powerful bus in the universe that can't stop or even slow down for reasons incomprehensible to the simple mind. So that sounds like what you're describing, but it's a very like low quality physics engine that's purposefully like just a stupid running into stuff and destroying buildings and stuff. So,
but maintaining those perfect, like, this is what you need to do. You need to collect their money.
Oh,
you
like
know?
you have to wait until the pressure builds up in the bus to close the door.
Yes, yeah. Everything else you keep the same, and that way for the people who wanted
But
it as a
Cthulhu's
job,
ripping out of the ground. I got
right,
you.
exactly. The people that were doing it as like a prerequisite to their interview, like they'd be able to go in and be like, "Hey, you're gonna be able to handle your route today," and you're gonna be like, "Listen, I handled it during an alien invasion. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to handle
I'll be
a normal
okay.
day." Yeah.
All right. And some quick podcast updates now that we've exhausted our backlog of pre-recorded episodes and we're dealing with an international quarantine. We've switched to bi-weekly podcasts. So they're coming out every Thursday now. That'll be our new schedule we're sticking to. And make sure to share the podcast with friends and enemies. We really appreciate everyone listening to us talk about a visual medium. So we hope you're enjoying it. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into this game finally. So we here on Garbage Game Night, we typically go for the more avant-garde bad games. I think for the most part, the games that we've done, you'd be hard-pressed to find them on like BuzzFeed's listicle about the 10 worst video games ever and why you'll hate them. But tonight, what we're doing is considered a classic in the lexicon of bad games. It's often compared to the Waterworld of games. So, Frank, could you tell us about the 1995 Kevin Costner film Waterworld?
Oh, no.
I'm kidding. Don't. You're not doing that.
I want to say I'm rusty, but you know.
You could do it if you needed
I thought
to.
you were doing it again. And I was just
Girl
like,
from
oh,
that
God.
Seal movie has a map tattooed on her back.
Oh wait, but I
Oh,
forgot.
yeah. God, that movie's so bad.
Andre.
Anyway, no. But back in the 90s, id Software was the developer for first-person shooters, creating Wolfenstein 3D in 1992. Wolfenstein 3D was, when it came out, was pretty unprecedented. It essentially created the genre of first-person shooters. And 18 months after that, they released Doom, which, because of its gore and publicity and improvements over the original game Wolfenstein, it made it a cultural phenomenon and is usually what most people think of when you say like the first-person shooter. Most people think Doom, but actually Wolfenstein was technically the first by the
Killing
same
those
company.
Nazis.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. It's tough business, but yeah, Doom, because of its phenomenon kind of status, it really, you could argue, it put PC gaming on the map. And Quake in 1996, as Tom mentioned, further topped those, not only by upping the quality of the graphics, but by using the new Quake engine, which gets a bit technical, but it's very different in the way that it was pre-processed the maps. So you were playing in a 3D environment that was already realized by the computer in the Quake engine. When you go back and you look at Doom, like Hunter was playing Doom or Wolfenstein 3D, you're not, most 3D games, it feels like you're looking through a camera into a rendered 3D space, right? But those old games, Wolfenstein and Doom, they were rendering the shapes in real time to give you a new view of each position that you're in. That system was called fixed height ray casting. It's interesting to look into if that's your thing, but really the limitations of 3D gaming prior to the Quake engine were that every movement that you made, every move forward, left, right that you moved, you were re-rendering what your new view was for each one. So it wasn't very smooth, even though when you do like a Doom emulator now, it's pretty smooth. But back then it wasn't very smooth playing it on your Apple II computer or whatever, because you were re-rendering your new view each time.
Wow.
And to compensate for that, what they would do was they'd limit how complex each new frame draw would have to be. So it was very low quality textures. They would use the fog of sight or darkness so that you couldn't see very far in the distance, and also use very small, tight corridors. That's probably what you think of when you think of Doom, right? You're all in these tiny little hallways. And the reason they were doing that because they were avoiding rendering these huge spaces. And to me, that's Tom, you said you remember a lot of Quake. I think that's the biggest feeling that I have from playing Quake is that all of a sudden there's these giant, huge open spaces where like no other game had really captured that in my mind before. So, you know, you had these shooting rockets at each other and flying across the map. That was all new with the Quake engine. So because the map was already rendered, it allowed for faster gameplay because it wasn't re-rendered with each view. So they really leaned into that. Obviously, Quake is famous for super, super fast gameplay. And it was also, you know, by the time Quake in 1996 came out, it was a lot more than the early 90s computers could handle. But id Software was led by John Carmack. You might have heard his name before. He works with Oculus now, but he was an extremely important figure in 3D gaming engines, and arguably the second most notable person at id Software, who became kind of a celebrity game designer, was a fellow by the name of John Romero. He was a game designer and programmer credited with many development tools in the 3D game space. He had massive success. Once they finished Quake, and it was a critical success, but did undersell Doom 2. He went off and formed Ion Storm with coworker Tom Hall. And what they would work on was pitched as his magnum opus, John Romero Unrestrained. He said it would be an RPG first-person shooter, and what could go wrong? Well, I think we'll talk about that as we get into it, but first, let's see the trailer of the game that we're about to jump into.
Wow, that's a huge buildup, though.
Yeah.
Like that's
This...
if you had said that if we were on Garbage Game Nights, I'd be like really excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am
Time
excited.
magazine featured John Romero as like he had the Midas touch for games, making Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake. Yeah, that's pretty good. resume. That's the word I'm looking for. Pretty good resume there. Yeah. So he goes off to form Ion Storm, and nobody guesses the name here. I think you guys will recognize it when you see it.
And what year was this?
They formed Ion Storm in 1997. So let's watch the trailer for
PlanetSide?
No, I liked PlanetSide. Hey.
No, I wasn't. No. I was just trying to
I mean, there's good bad games, okay, bud?
There are good bad games. All right, so let's watch the trailer for Daikatana.
I feel like I've heard this.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard the name too.
All right. I'm glad you guys haven't experienced this yet. Yeah, so we're watching the trailer for the PC and N64 version.
Oh, no.
24 huge levels. Huge. 64 varied and highly detailed monsters and enemies.
I like how long they're staying on those title screens.
Original CD audio tracks.
Dude, CD audio tracks, nice.
Who would care about that?
Audio files, obviously, because CD's the best medium ever. Wow, that was kind of
that looked so
quick.
terrible.
Wow, that was just a bad trailer, though, too. Like,
yeah.
And I'm going to send you one more thing. This is an ad that came out, a poster.
A single Daikatana either.
I'm sending you guys one more
crossbow.
thing. This is a poster that came out for the game. Anyone recognize that? This poster that we're looking at is an all red with black text. It says,
my
John
God.
Romero is about to make you his bitch. Suck it
Just don't
down
forget-
on the bottom.
Yeah, don't forget to read the bottom.
Yeah,
Suck
very
it
notorious
down.
poster. It helped
never
kind
seen
of
that.
turn public sentiment against this game.
oh, really?
Yeah. It's certainly got a
for his britches there.
yeah, it's audacious, I suppose. Got kind of a machismo kind of attitude, but as we'll say, maybe it's in the spirit of the game. But I think seeing an ad for this, it just doesn't make you want to play it. Really, it just makes you think he's kind of a dick, right? So, He did apologize for it in 2010. He said that he saw it and didn't stop it. It seemed like he was fine playing into the celebrity masochistic game developer that has sort of been developed around him for the sake of marketing. So
Do you think that like the general public knew who the hell he was? Because I feel like they probably didn't. You know, like I sometimes I feel like I don't know. I think that when they do stuff like this, like they think of like the niche that would be like, oh yeah, John Romero. Yeah, I know. Oh, he's the one who, made Quake and did all this stuff. But in reality, like I feel like I'd read that post and that would mean nothing to me.
Right. Yeah, and that was definitely, it was done in like PC gaming magazines. I think I remember seeing it in an EGM in like 1997 or something. It's something that I actually missed about it when I was reading about it, because like I've said, so much has been written about this game and this era that there are thousands of articles to go through, and I got overwhelmed. Normally, when we do a game, I'm struggling to I'll look up the game, the developer, try and find more information. And by page 2 of Google, like I'm out of information. There's no more information about these developers out there. But this one, literal books have been written about these people and their time working on Doom, Quake, and moving on to Ion Storm. But anyway, what they were saying about this marketing campaign was that I didn't even get that it was supposed to be playing off the trash talking that was happening in forums and online games at this point. And maybe because we're in 2020 now, and I mean, that definitely still happens, bad mouthing in games, it happens, but I don't know. I don't experience as much as I used to, even back in like the Call of Duty 360 days, where people sending you messages. I don't know if it's getting better. Maybe I think some of the gamers who are more inclined to do that kind of thing have their own games that I don't necessarily play. So I think for a while there, a lot of the gamers who had the worst attitudes, like, well, they were suckered into like Fortnite, and I wasn't playing Fortnite. And when Fortnite got big, like Overwatch got better. So, but at that time, John Romero legitimately created deathmatch style games, and he was big into trash talking, and so he kind of became notorious for that, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, they were trying to play off of that, and I don't think it worked that great, because there's so much to talk about with this game. I haven't really gone into the whole pitch of it and its build up, believe it or not. But how does the pitch sound for it, having the developer of Doom, Quake, and having some RPG elements in there? How does that sound to you guys?
I love the idea of having
the pitch sounds
being
great.
RPG.
Yeah. RPG first-person shooters, those are like a dime a dozen now. So back then,
Frank, if you can boot the game up, because I had trouble. Anytime I run the game and then try and run it again, I can't, because it's already running.
Oh.
Technical
We'll find out.
difficulties.
I'm going in, see if I lose you boys. And it's funny, there's like no like
All right.
thing. It just brings you right to the beginning of the
Yes.
title screen.
Yeah, there's no
like,
credits or anything.
Yeah.
It's
I was like, okay. All right,
Just
so
you're
I'm
in it.
launching now. Godspeed.
So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start the game. In the beginning of the game, you can pick Ronin, Samurai, or Shogun for your difficulty. Go ahead and do Ronin, and we'll watch the intro trailer here, and we'll just sort of let Frank's playing on a bit of a delay. So once we get past the trailer, we'll just let him play for a little bit.
This is like the screen that it opens up to. It has all the options on the side. And
Yeah,
or
the
was there
interface
one right
is
before it?
interesting, right? No, that's it. That's it. It launches, and you're right there with this. You got ticking on the loading screen.
Oh God.
Was Romero proud of it or not?
We will get into whether Romero is proud of it. Yeah, the interface, though, definitely haven't seen anything like it in 20 years. Maybe even 20 years ago, I'd never seen anything like it. So here's a look at our hero. Any guesses what his name is?
Good name. Katana.
Daikatana.
Daikatana.
His name is Hero.
No, his name is Miyamoto-san.
There is a visitor
Or is it
waiting
Hiro
outside who refuses
Miyamoto?
to-
Oh my God.
Let me
His
guess,
head is
Mio.
just bobbing.
It's my
It's
landlord.
it's named after Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario.
Like I said, the visitor would not give his name.
Donation.
Perhaps if you would allow me to explain,
Is he,
Miyamoto-san.
I feel like he should get shot
You
right
need
now.
only spare me
You know in
a few
movies you know right
moments.
before
Go
someone's gonna
on.
get killed?
Right.
I'm not here.
Yeah, the old man who's dying at his doorstep with a desperate message.
Hey, I promise you it will be worth your time. Centuries
This is a
ago,
really important plot.
the
Pay attention.
Shogunate Mishima ruled over our people with an iron fist. Osaka Mishima hired a legendary swordmaster to create the ultimate weapon. The Daikatana was Usagi Miyamoto, your ancestor. Through the power of the sword, he was able to foresee the fate that awaited mankind. That was 1,000 years ago. He offered it to the shogunate's nemesis, Inshiro Ebihara. An epic battle atop Mount Fujiya.
Does not look
Inshiro
epic.
used the awesome might
Just kind of
of
whacking at him with a stick.
to decimate Mishima's legions. Thousands died on
At
that
least
battlefield.
5.
But Mishima
We saw 5
was
character
finally
models.
overthrown. Usagi threw the Daikatana
Lord of the
into
Rings
the
style.
heart of the raging volcano.
So you want me to create another Daikatana?
No,
What's the big deal? The Daikatana is still just a sword, like any other, right?
wrong.
Cute.
Legend has the mutagenic Marburg pox filovirus, more commonly known
The
as
mutagenic
MMP,
Marburg pox
first
filovirus.
cropped up at the tail end of the millennium.
Are you listening?
Kagi claims that the Mishima family came up with a cure for the MMP virus back in the year 2030. Kagi was able to travel back through time.
Accumulated the funds to finance his vast
He
empire.
fully buys
That's right.
into it now.
He was skeptical before, but now he's on board. 9 minutes of dialogue in, you've convinced me.
I'm sorry, but I don't see what you need from me.
It's about my daughter.
Wait, what?
Your daughter.
Because we haven't introduced enough characters.
I trained my daughter Mikiko.
Is that it?
Yes. And then together, you must find the
He adds more
Daikatana
exposition.
so that history
I did
can
want
be
sword
changed
training.
back to the way it was.
my daughter's
Neat story, Toshiro. But I'm not quite sure I buy it. Even if I did,
God.
I'm just a guy teaching kids
Shouldn't
how to
do
fight
that.
with a sword.
No, you are the descendant of Usagi Miyamoto. Embrace your heritage and
Who the...
Kill him. Kill the old guy like I said. Yes. That super swordsman just completely got cold cocked.
but find my daughter and the Daikatana.
I can't just...
Say nothing. When the death collectors come to get my
20
body,
seconds to see the guy coming.
get away.
You can't trust me to go rescue her.
It will get you inside Mishima's fortress.
I like how every company is a version of Mishima. It's Mishima Crematorium, Mick Mishima for burgers.
You've gone into the crematorium truck.
What?
Okay, our hero our
you
hero
listen,
Hero
Tom?
has
I got
stowed
distracted, I
away
guess.
in a coffin in the crematorium truck, which is apparently a dump truck because death is so common in the world of Daikatana. They use dump trucks to bring people to the crematorium. But
Well,
yeah,
you
we
know,
had the old man.
the Marlboro pox virus, really.
The drivers
This
of the
is so
crematorium
bad.
truck were joking about how many coffins were going to fall off their truck when they hit that bump. Who feels like they have the best handle on the plot? The 11 minutes of exposition that is the intro to this game. You want to give us a quick rundown of what we just saw? In 30 seconds.
Here, Frank's playing though. I'll do it. So
Go.
ancient sword gets made, gets given to somebody else to hide. A lot of shit happens. Virus kills the world, and now this guy's got to save a dude's daughter and find the sword again.
You're missing out on only the one thing I think is that the reality he lives in now is created by this guy who traveled back through time. You know,
Did I
Right.
miss a
So
time
he's
travel
gotta-
aspect? Did I
There
forget
was.
that?
Oh, yeah.
There
Yeah.
was wow.
Yeah, so there
I-
are two warring feudal Japanese families or clans, and the Ibiharas and the Mishima. The Mishima have Usagi Miyamoto make a sword, and that sword is supposed to end the feud. We're watching the graphics now. And so he makes the sword. He realizes though that the Mishimas they're too powerful, that they'll destroy the world and they're evil, so he can't give it to them. So instead he gives it to their enemy, the Ibiharas. The Ibiharas use it to end the feud. But now the future that you're living in, somehow the Mishima acquired the sword and used it to change destiny. This is not the reality we should all be living in. It's one where the Mishimas got the sword and have created this kind of dictatorship where they're a corporation in control of everything. So that's the plot that we're in. We have to go rescue that old guy who visited us, his daughter. He was a descendant of the Ibiharas.
Because she knows how to use the
Because she's been
Daikatana.
trained how to use the Daikatana.
I love how in the beginning of these games, like you always kill dragonflies and frogs, like the most harmless things ever.
Yeah, there's mosquitoes flying around right now.
In Baldur's Gate,
Frogs.
one of the OG Baldur's Gate, one of the first things is you have to kill a whole bunch of rats.
Yeah.
That's always
You gotta
like
level
the
up
first-
somehow.
First fight in any medieval RPG is like, oh, just go down to the basement and kill a couple rats for us. Like, oh, my journey has finally begun.
And the sad thing is that it's like quasi-challenging sometimes. Like,
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well-
actually maybe one of my favorite things about RPGs is that feeling of progression.
Progression.
And XCOM, I was talking about XCOM earlier, does that really well too, where like by the time you get to the end, like some of these enemies that when you fought them the first time, you were completely overwhelmed by their strength. And at the end, if you've really worked on it, you've gotten to a point where you're just immensely powerful and you're just like swatting these like high level enemies to the side. Like it's a satisfying feeling. So I feel like in a first person shooter, like if you were to capture that feeling of being like, right now we're struggling against dragonflies, but at the end you've gained enough strength for going against these like high level enemies, it could be pretty cool.
I think on
Oh,
that
Frank
note,
found a gator.
another progression really well is Death Stranding. At the beginning, when you're dealing with the BTs, which are like the ghosts, you're literally like hiding from them. You just like slowly stealth your way through the area and avoid them. Then you're given ways to like get them away from you. And finally you're killing them and killing like bigger versions of them and, you know, your boss fights and whatever. But I thought Death Stranding, I think, has one of the best pacing and progression because there's so much to the game that it could be overwhelming if they gave it to you all at once, like Breath of the Wild. But like breaking it up over the
Yeah.
chapters and the parts of the continent that you explore really ends up like not overwhelming you and easing you into all of the weird concepts that the game has to offer.
One thing that's kind of weird about this is that for having as much exposition as it did, I mean, I get dragonflies and frogs, they're just very malicious in this world. But, like, why are there turrets outside of the crematorium?
Why do you have a blaster arm
The ion blaster. So that was the main thing that caught me off guard. I know when we launched into this game, we watched the trailer first, so we got to see that it was a first-person view. I went into this honestly not knowing even what the gameplay was. I just knew Daikatana, and oh yeah, I've heard of that before. I've heard that it was this epic flop. And so you watch the 11 minutes of exposition about the Swordmaster, and you're going to go get the Daikatana back. The last thing I expected was to be a first-person shooter that looked like Doom. Like, I mean, you're a sword master, right? You train people to use swords. So why do I have an ion blaster, and why do I have a fist where I can punch mosquitoes? Yeah, it came out of nowhere for me.
You're right. At the very least, your melee should be a sword.
So you were talking about like the beginning of the game and how they explained everything. I opened up Doom Ultimate, clicked new game, picked a difficulty level, and they just set me down in this area. I had no idea where I was or what to do. I had a gun that I could shoot and I could move around. And it actually took me like quite some time to figure out, because I didn't go through the option menus or anything, but it took me quite some time to figure out that I had to actually like hit a button to open doors. So I was like,
and actually, Frank, same thing for you, Frank. You do have a use button. I think it's your right click. You can eat berries off the ground for health.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's
They
something
never tell you that.
Yeah, they don't tell, and they didn't tell me anything in Doom. So
Right.
I'm just like walking around. I'm like picking up health and stuff. And by the time I finished the first level, I was like, oh wow, I feel like I thoroughly explored this place. And it's like, oh, you've killed like 10% of the enemies and discovered no secrets. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's a theme that carries from id Software onto Ion Storm here. They also give you a tracker at the end of the level for secrets found. And a lot of them, like you said, you didn't find a lot of secrets in Doom. Well, a lot of them, like in this game, like you just run up to the wall. It's a completely plain looking wall. Sometimes there's one little hint on it, and you just click on the panel on the wall and it'll open up. Like there's no way you could have known that unless you clicked every single wall in the entire level.
And like all of the mechanisms in Doom are completely flat, like 2D surfaces.
Yes.
So like, I was like, is this a switch? It looks like it could be, but it's hard to tell. So I'll just start hitting spacebar on everything.
So again, remind me, what were Romero's two big games before this?
So yeah, working with id Software, he was the main developer with John Carmack for Wolfenstein 3D, as well as Doom and then Quake. Yeah, so John Romero is rightfully credited with creating a lot of the 3D tools used in 3D game creation. He's often credited with coining the term deathmatch, the most basic of online FPS. And I actually got some more insight from him here from this article, that the article is mostly based on there's a book called Masters of Doom, a 2003 book, which is all about id Software and these games that they made and how influential they were. I pulled this from kananukuriblogspot.com, so I guess credit there. You can always find all the credits for anything I'm citing on our website, so go look at our website too. Man, those mosquitoes buzzing in my ear. I'm going to turn the volume down on the game a little bit. The mosquito buzzing is... Turn it down. Oh my God, it's unbearable.
Also, why were they flying? We're going to the crematorium, right?
Yes, and they have...
why did just like 10 giant mosquito things fly out of the crematorium as if they were sent out?
This article, though, says John Carmack and John Romero, their personalities and talents were so contrasted like day and night. Carmack is a laser-focused programmer hermit who created many revolutions in programming and graphics engines. Romero is the gamer artist celebrity who has a knack to implement Carmack's programming into a revolutionary game. In essence, Carmack was the scientist while Romero was the artist. Their pattern in developing their games was like this. Carmack created their game engine, the nuts and bolts of the game, the Legos that determined how computers shape and play the game, while Romero is the one who experimented with the engine, gave ideas on what kind of implementation the engine could or should have, implemented that engine, and used it to create revolutionary special effects. The results were fantastic. Romero could utilize Carmack's revolutionary engine in ways that Carmack himself couldn't possibly think of. Not only that, Carmack's conservativeness hit a break whenever Romero went too far, while Romero's aggressiveness pulled the best out of Carmack. Looks like their differences complemented each other perfectly, covering each other's weaknesses. But their success created cracks and frictions. After the success of Doom and Doom 2, Romero acted like a rock star with Doom gamers as his groupies. While Carmack started to work for their next project, Quake, Romero felt that Carmack lost touch with their customers, the gaming community. The gaming world also got another glimpse of Romero's weaknesses during the early days of Quake's development. When Romero, Carmack, and other programmers were brainstorming about Quake, Romero was really awed by what he heard. He shared his excitement with all his fans. That basically means all the gamers on Earth. Complete with his usual hyperbolic wordings like the next game is going to blow Doom to hell. So he's always making these bold hyperbolic statements. His colleagues disliked this behavior with good reason. Since Quake was still in its infancy, many of their ideas wouldn't even make it into the final version of the game. The gamers would be pissed if this didn't happen. Romero agreed, but Romero couldn't help himself. After that, during an interview with Computer Player magazine, he proclaimed that Quake won't just be a game, it'll be a movement. So these frictions culminated when Carmack called Romero poison for the company and shot down his designs for Quake. Romero finally had enough. He left id Software after they finished Quake. Romero and his close friends founded a new game company. This would be the realization of Romero's dream. They were sure that money wouldn't be a problem since everyone in the gaming industry thought that Romero had Midas's touch. So Frank has made it to the second part. Actually, probably in the third or fourth part of the Marsh right now.
So the problem that Romero had has been something that's never gone away. Like, what was the game? It was supposed to be like
Fable.
Space exploration. No Man's Sky.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, but you're right about Fable, too, though. Like,
yeah.
In Fable and No Man's Sky, both of those were, like, plagued with, like, these huge expectations, and they must have said these amazing things that they were going to do way, like, early in development, and they never got to put it out.
Did Fable have the same thing? Because, like,
Yeah, Fable.
I think
they
Fable
said,
2 did.
And
Oh,
one, they
because
promised
they were
a lot
saying
of
it,
stuff
like-
that just didn't happen.
Oh, in Fable they said like you'd grow
Did they?
old.
Fable
and,
2
like,
was
scars.
Peter Molyneux,
yeah.
notorious for that. He developed Black and White, which was a fantastic game on PC.
I
But
played a lot of that.
big promises, and yeah, I love that game. Yeah, but talking up his games a little more than he probably should. Yeah, and once you start talking about it, especially when deadlines start getting pushed, it's hard to get back ahead of that. When the rock star John Romero and Tom Hall was the other developer who left id Software to form Ion Storm with him. They founded Ion Storm in Dallas, Texas, where they went to begin their first game. Daikatana. When Ion Storm was founded, they signed a deal with Iotis Interactive for 6 games. In a very .com style move, they rented a penthouse of a skyscraper in, as I mentioned, Dallas, Texas, and spent $2.5 million on their offices. They had movie rooms with $50,000 projectors, leather couches for viewing. The rent for this office space was $55,000 per month. And yeah.
How much rent did they have?
Yeah.
Wait, so the people are all just innocent. Sorry, I just
yes, these
noticed
are innocent people that Frank is looking at.
You don't know
who are
their
running away.
stories.
Yeah, I mean the guy who like sent the mail for Hitler was still a Nazi.
The guy he was just chasing was an adulterer.
Well, he works at the crematorium. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, do we know why we're at a crematorium? Did I miss
Well,
that?
because that was the way to get into Mishima.
But Mishima owns everything in the world. Why couldn't he just go to McDonald's, Mishima?
Is Frank gonna shoot one of them? I don't know yet. Oh, he shot him. All right.
Anyway, they should have been happy he was killing all those frogs.
Oh, so yeah, as I mentioned, the rent for the office was $55,000 per month, and an article that you can find a citation for on the website, and I'll mention it later because I can't find it right now. They pointed out just to cover the cost of the offices and the utilities, they'd have to essentially produce a box office video game every single year. The amount of money that games were making, even like Doom at that point, weren't making so much money that you could legitimize a $55,000 in rent. It's absurd.
That's so crazy though. Like just that says so much about his ego.
Yeah, so they did actually technically start working on a game before Daikatana. Part of Iotis's plan, they were bankrolling this, was to buy up nearly finished games, hand them off to Ion Storm to quickly finish with Romero's Midas touch. So the first one that they did that with was a game called Dominion Storm Over Gift 3. It was an RTS, so it was supposed to take about $50,000 in 3 months to finish up. Instead, it ended up taking over a year with $100,000. And it was RTS, like I said, and they released it on the same day as perhaps the worst competitor to release an RTS to. They released it on the same day as StarCraft came out. Close.
Wow.
Yeah, StarCraft wasn't the first, but
out of Red Alert, by the way.
oh yeah, I played a lot of Red Alert.
And I know. Probably, I'd be surprised if any of you ever played this. But did any of you ever play Battle Realms?
No, I've never heard of that. I don't think.
It was in the same exact vein, except it was all just like they're like kind of samurai themed. Like the clans were, I think the Lotus, the Wolf, the Serpent, and the Dragon. Dragon was just like samurais, and Serpent were just like shady samurais. But the Lotus were really cool. They were kind of like zombies almost.
Huh.
They were like almost completely defensively based. I'm getting to something kind of cool. And they're the slowest moving units in the game. And my friend and I used to play it online against each other all the time. Could never attack him because the units were so slow, so we're just kind of wait. They had this one special ability where if they went into a watchtower, they could teleport to another watchtower. In the very early bits of the game, right after my friend found me, I created a watchtower all the way across the map right below his base. And it was probably just one of my most epic wins ever when like he sent his full force over and like killed my fake base. And then I had teleported everyone over while it was being overrun and just like literally took like a stroll with my entire force and like annihilated his base and got back before he could come back. And it was just all he had was his force left. It was a cool game. If you ever get a chance, look it up. Battle Realms.
That was
Battle Realms.
One of my favorite things about RTS games was like turtling for 40 minutes and then just going out with like a max food army. Like you could not build anymore. You've gotten rid of all of your your what's it called, like your workers,
scavenging units.
Gotten rid of all that, only made, and you just go all in once and hope for the best. Like I did that Protoss carriers. I don't know if you remember from StarCraft. And just
absolutely.
Like an entire map full of them, and just floated over a base, and you couldn't see anything because it was glitching so bad, and like they were covered by all of the little carrier guys. And then I would move away and there would be nothing left behind.
Hunter, that is exactly what I would do. Like,
and then
if I attacked you, it was because it was everything I possibly
had. It was all or nothing. It was all or nothing.
Yeah, I got pretty far in StarCraft ladders just by committing to a Zergling rush.
But see,
your win percentage with it is okay enough that you kept climbing.
But your Zerg rush. That's the thing. A Zerg rush is just running with your like workers and your first
starting units,
Zergling and taking over. I'm talking about like, and I tried that when I first tried playing online. Was like, and I didn't really understand like not the way you were supposed to play the game, but the way that you end up playing it efficiently is that you build more than one base. So I always had one base, and I would have workers going across the map, bringing me like, more Vespene gas because I would only ever have one control center. So the first time I get online, I'm like, all right, I've got my strategy. I'm going to turtle. I'm going to keep this guy out of my... And he just rolled me unbelievably that I did not play online again for like a year. And then I was
intimidating in the early years of online.
I was playing with my cousin, and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you have no, like, you only have one of this. I only ever had one barrack. I built one of everything except, like, I would have, 20 turrets and 20 bunkers if I was Terran or whatever.
Well, in the early days of these kinds of games, there wasn't a Twitch stream you could jump to, and there wasn't like you didn't go onto the forums to find the main strategies. You just did the best with what you had.
The story was just turtling.
Right, well,
I'm sorry, that's a great feeling, though. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, no, discovering it on your own, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean turtling.
Oh.
I mean like that feeling of just like the whole game, like kind of shaking them off, and then be like, "Oh, you ready, bitch?" be like, watch this, and like just come over with like you said, Hunter, just like no peasants or whatever the lowest level caste system you have. Like they're all
collectors.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just full-on badasses left and just march across the map like this
No.
is
This is it.
It
All
just-
in.
No more SCVs. It's all, and I would each game I played, I would pick like one unit, and that would be the one I would just mass spam it. So I would roll out with like hundreds of Goliaths, or
Right.
like the max amount of
Goliath
carriers.
online.
Yes.
Frank, for the
And
love of
then-
God, please be careful with the C4 gun. It's going to blow you up.
Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty strong.
All
Again,
right.
Why does a crematorium have this security?
Need mech warriors to defend it.
Yeah.
All right. So
Is
yeah,
it keeping
so
people out or keeping demons
Also, we
in?
went from frogs. Have you noticed that the frogs and these rocket launchers are just as they're equal threat?
as we're running through we're inside the crematorium in Daikatana. Frank's running through, seeing some employees, some NPCs who are harmless, but there's like also frogs among them, and the frogs know that it's time to attack Hero, but the employees just run away. All right, yeah. So Daikatana, they started development in 1997 and set a release date for Christmas season of the same year, which was only 7 months away, which was bold. This was based on the deadlines that they had made Quake in, apparently. They did not meet that deadline, by the way, the Christmas deadline,
Did you
in
just
part
kill
because
that guy? That innocent
he was in the
worker?
way, to be fair.
He was
He
the
was
fat
blocking
one,
you.
too.
You guys just really get in the way.
Don't
So
kill
yeah,
him.
they were six months into development for Daikatana, and they weren't going to hit that deadline already. But then they saw a Quake 2 engine, so they saw the engine, and they're like, "Oh crap, we have to use that engine." They thought, or at least John Romero thought, like, "Oh, this will add like a couple weeks to our production timeline." It was a full year later before they said that they had fully integrated into Quake 2. It ended up even being longer than that they had been in development. So from a Salon article.
I love that every person Frank kills is solely because they're blocking him.
Oh, he definitely goes way out of his way to make sure they live until they're in his way. Oh, is he going to go for those health packs? He did it. All right.
I don't know where I'm going.
The ladder down there?
Is there? Okay.
God, I would kill them for screaming after a while. That it's like only one sound effect over and over.
Yeah, so from a Salon article, that John Romero is going to make you his bitch ad is from late 1997. And the game magazines are niche oriented, but the controversy was kind of contained. You know, it's not like this was put in like Time magazine or something, but it still left kind of a permanent scar on the perception of the company. Like here's this like bad talking thing, and they keep delaying the game. So, you know, they thought it was a funny idea to parody the prevalent trash talk of Doom and Quake, but you know, not everyone agreed, and they didn't run that ad for very long. Its main effect was kind of focusing trash talk on the company rather than like the gamer atmosphere. So a lot of people started just kind of pile on to Ion Storm because they just kept delaying the deadline.
Which is almost fair. Like if trash talking's gonna be like your thing and you want to make that part of like your message, and
Yeah.
then like you don't deliver, like expect to get it.
Yeah.
He's killed so many people and he hasn't leveled up yet. I can see the bar.
Wait, you see the progression bar?
Look at the
On the left-hand side of the
right.
screen, the power, yeah.
But he's killed a lot of things to
Sure.
have not leveled yet.
Gotcha.
What is acro? It's the only thing
Acrobatics. I think the Ion Blaster, Frank, I think that like damages the water that you're in.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good weapon to
Which
use.
brings us to a point about the weapons in this game. So many of the weapons in this game damage you. There are a few that feel like a safe weapon to use. Yeah, the media sensation around the game. So, you know, bad kind of press with them doing that ad that no one really bought into because they were delaying the game. And they're doing this game that the gamer world is so highly focused on. It's a devout niche following who's already interested in it. Now you sort of become the object of their scorn because you keep delaying the game.
So what games do you think maybe in the last 5 to 10 years have had the same thing?
Duke Nukem Forever is another one that comes to mind,
true.
and Destiny, I think.
Oh, and what's the one that started with A? Anthem. I feel like
Anthem,
that's the
yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and there was like daily gossip as well about the going-ons inside of Ion Storm. From an article on Inquisitor, there was a lot of infighting, and I have a pull quote from someone who was working at the company, and it says, so from someone working at the company, they said, "During a meeting, I explained to John that I was working on the end game cinematics with Cage, the antagonist. I pronounced it Cage. Romero giggled. Who? What? what are you working on? I said it again. Now everyone was laughing at me. Romero said, who? Say it again. And I go, Cage? Romero's like, no, dude, it's pronounced Kaji. And I go, well, you better check out with the voiceover recordings because it's Cage. And suddenly Romero's face turned white and half the audio in the game had his name pronounced wrong, but it was too late to fix.
Wow.
So, some more development stories. I mentioned it was in Dallas, Texas. Not exactly the hub of game programmers, apparently, but they picked it for whatever reason. And they had to bring in talent from all over the U.S., costing way more money. Somewhere along the line, they had a mass exodus, about 20 staff members leaving. There was a miserable atmosphere, apparently, and, you know, what with all the negative press and internal struggles and constant delays. There was a GameSpot article that was pretty comprehensive about the development, so here are some highlights from that article, though. Ion Storm's new quarters were plush, but they also were the subject of intense heat that comes from working in a glass bubble with curved windows serving as a ceiling. So literally they mean like intense heat. For game developers accustomed to dark environments, the direct sunlight and resulting heat caused concern. In addition, artists had their cubes directly positioned under the sunlight, which made trying to work during lunch hours also an impossible task. And I read during another article that most of them ended up like covering their cubicles with like black sheets.
What?
Romero's.
Oh, you didn't have to kill him, Frank. Sorry,
Now, Frank,
now
speed
Frank has
running now,
upgraded
okay?
this. That's what they say. Just, you know, you do something bad and it just gets easier and easier. At first, they're in your way. Now you're just killing because you love death.
I got time.
So coupled with a dilemma of game design still in flux, Romero's much vaunted sidekicks weren't even working in the game, and that posed huge problems for the level design. One programmer said, there were a lot of unanswered questions when I was building maps, said Savare Cavernmo. Since sidekicks weren't working, you can only guess about how the map needs to be designed in order to accommodate them. While the level designers struggled with their map designs, the artists also had trouble realizing the game's cinematic sequence, originally planned as pre-rendered movies. Daikatana's story changed on a weekly basis, said artist Billy Daly, and that made the job of drawing the game's cinematic storyboards very difficult. One example of how the departments were not working together, and maybe attesting to Romero's trouble with actually leading a company on his own, there was a story about how they had this skin for a little arrowhead, and it was rendered by the artist in 1300 by 960 pixels, which is pretty huge in what you would expect for a game like these days, what an arrowhead may be, even not even that big, honestly. So, but because there was so little communication, the artist had been inexperienced with working with games. They drew this thing that probably took them weeks to make, this highly detailed arrowhead, and it ended up being, you know, we're looking at a game that's like 600 pixels wide. So that was never going to be viewed larger than like 10 pixels.
Oh, wow. So they put all of this effort into something that's
Yeah, it's just an example of terrible communication.
What?
These frogs are everywhere. How the fuck did that frog get there?
There's no way for that mechanical frog to get there.
I'm sorry, there's no fucking way.
He's been waiting his whole life. He was built and then set on that edge.
There was a ladder with no stairs, and then I want to see how far down this gap goes, but there's no fucking way. I'm sorry. It's just you have mech warriors with rocket launchers, but you're still dealing with the frogs. Like,
yeah.
You can't. You're gonna get to the end of this game, and there's still gonna be frogs.
Do you guys remember anything that stood out during the quick little trailer that we watched? Something that doesn't look like
Skeletons?
this. So yeah, in the trailer that we watched, we saw skeletons, and we haven't got into it yet, but the game promised something pretty bold. The game does have you jump through eras.
Oh, so the time travel does kind of come in?
It does happen, yes. And
oh, no, the frog. Now they can swim.
Frog followed him underwater. Now Frank has to find an air pocket, though. So, yeah, Romero's goal was for this time-traveling concept to serve as an impetus for dramatic shifts in on-screen content. He was tired of the sameness of most levels in action games. Romero developed 4 distinct time periods with no overlapping content. There is ancient Greece, the Dark Ages in Norway, a techno-industrial Japan, and a 21st century San Francisco. So we're kind of in the techno-industrial Japan in the first 2 levels here. It's the year is 2455.
Japanese vibe right now.
So I keep talking about 1997 and delays. The game actually was finally released in, any guesses?
December.
Well, of what year?
97.
Oh, no, definitely not 97.
Oh, December of 98.
That's what they promised. Nope, not December of 98.
99.
2000.
It was May 2000 that the game finally came out. And by that time, what they were so concerned about was the graphics engine being dated, and that's why they delayed it to switch to Quake 2 engine. The game legitimately was dated by the time it came out. There were games that looked far better than this in 2000. In fact, the 64 version, which we'll take a look at, I don't know that there's a game that looks worse than this on Nintendo 64.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It's shocking. On PC, it doesn't look great either. It lived up to none of its expectations.
I'm waiting to hear the story of what happens to this guy after this. He lives out the rest of his life, just trying to atone for his sins. He becomes a monk.
But it seemed like Iotis, who was bankrolling all this, kind of forced them to finally push the game out. And it doesn't seem like they were happy with it when it came out, like even Romero. Despite how long it took. The version for 64 actually came out a month or two before the PC version, after its initial promise date of Christmas 1997, so you can understand how public sentiment kind of turned against it, and how, even if the game is not good, people were ready to look for every flaw in it.
And you know what? As they should have been,
Yeah.
If you're going to talk your game up that much.
Iotis opened a second Ion Storm studio in Austin, probably because they were so frustrated with Daikatana that they just wanted to get out of their 6-game contract as fast as possible. But that second studio did produce other games, and free from what was going on in the Dallas studio, they developed Deus Ex.
Wow.
Yeah, and also Deus Ex Invisible War, the sequel to it, that did considerably better than what they were doing in Dallas. They also did a game in the Thief series, Deadly Shadows. So with all those games that finish up their 6-game contract with Iotis, and Ion Storm shut their doors.
So I guess they didn't do Deus Ex Human Revolution?
They did not. No, the license was passed on to another company. That was a really good one. All right, so Frank is at the end of this episode.
Oh, having points in acro will result in the bionic sounds of the $6 Million Man TV show being played.
Yes, you hear that jump noise. Yeah, honestly, like the biggest impact that Quake, maybe John Romero in general, that he had on me was I played so much Counter-Strike that many Counter-Strike servers back in the day would load custom sound packs. So when you were on kill streaks and stuff, it would use the sound packs from Quake, like kill streak, multicide, all the dumb phrases like that.
Kill-tacular.
Right. Yeah, so we're exploring the prison
Why are
right
people
now.
Still screaming. Oh, because they're in prison. I don't like when they do stuff like that where it doesn't make sense. So like, okay, there's a control panel. Where would you put it in real life? I would put it, 15 feet high on the ceiling. Like where like normal day-to-day functioning, you're like, hey, Bill, hey, we need to get open that door. Can you get the ladder out? That's the only way.
We can get this door open.
So, as you know, I used to do low voltage technician work, and that's exactly the type of things that happen.
That's what they would do.
There was a building I worked on that had 2 doors on either side of the building with a lobby in the middle. Rather than like find an office to put the box in that we could access, we put it above the ceiling. So anytime I had to adjust those doors, I'd have to come in with a 12-foot ladder, climb up the ceiling, open it, and then there was like a little code punch and a screen and like a small computer up there that
someone didn't want to run the box slower. Yeah, so with previous games, we've had minor squabbles about whether it's the best version of the game we're playing. Well,
Squabble.
This game did come out on N64. The 64 version, by all accounts, is a complete disaster even compared to this. It used the 64 expansion pack, which doubled the amounts of RAM from 4 megabytes to 8 megabytes on the Nintendo 64. But some of the differences, it plays one repeating track per era. The weapons can be carried through different eras, which kind of breaks the whole game, but also mostly it creates a problem of you have to cycle through all your weapons to pick which weapon you want, but since you've got like 6 other weapons that you're out of ammo with, it makes just picking the weapon that you want extremely difficult.
This guy was just trying to do his job.
I know, Frank just murdered. I told you, it just gets easier, man.
Once you start down the path of
I'm
darkness.
thinking that Frank is really enjoying this game because he's not like responding to anything. He's totally in the zone. And just,
Yeah, you're the only one who's actually got the controls here, Frank. How's the controls for the game
It feels
feel?
like Quake, honestly.
Yeah, it's fast, rapid gameplay, right? And every time you shoot someone, they blow up into chunks.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
64 version does have a few modes of multiplayer.
And so is the PC version.
The PC version does also have multiplayer, much like, he came from creating death matches, so he was going to have a death match in this, obviously. It does have a co-op version as well, where 2 people can play through the campaign, although everything when it came out is essentially broken. Some differences with the 64 version, the NPCs that Frank has been more and more... Frank, those are prisoners, you don't need to be.
Murder. He can't stop now, Chris. He can't stop now.
Remember, by the time you've told him, he's already killed.
Yeah, it's 10 seconds ago, I know. But I thought maybe I could save. So the NPCs
he still murdered everybody.
that Frank has been killing willy-nilly here, at least in the EU version, they made it so you couldn't just kill them, which, come on,
lame.
EU. If they work for Mishima, they're going to die. It's not our problem. They chose to work for
Frank would
Mishima.
think it's lame now.
This is where you cue the clerk's conversation about the Death Star.
Yeah.
Ooh, got one.
I'm not sure what he said got one to yet.
See.
Yeah. Murdering civilians.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It was murdering civilians. So since this game, John Romero has been involved in consulting for a lot of games, but he has not been the head developer on any first-person shooters. He's done lots of interviews, talks, and presentations out there where he discusses id Software, Daikatana for hours at a time. There doesn't seem to be any animosity between him and John Carmack, the original co-founder of id Software. If you're interested in like the beginning of FPS games, I mentioned the book Masters of Doom appears to be where a lot of this information comes from, but there's lots of videos on YouTube. He goes through the whole history of id Software at a GDC conference in a video called Early Days of id Software. It's pretty interesting if you're just interested in the history of games. But yeah, he seems like a pretty well-balanced guy these days, and he's still got his signature very long flowing black hair. That's kind of his look.
And what is he doing? Any games now?
No, he talked for a while about Frank. There was a guy much doing what Hunter used to do, which is repair electrical boxes, and Frank just came up behind him and killed him.
I thought he was cowering in fear.
Oh no, he was fixing something. So now Frank's using the shot cycler, which is a very Quake style weapon. It's a shotgun that fires all 6 cylinders at once, well, one at a time when you do it.
We haven't really talked about this, but like I played Doom, and this kind of seems like it seems fun. Like it seems enjoyable so far.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not playing it, and this is my first time not playing a game. So I'm not sure. But
Oh, we're hearing the
$1
Million Dollar Man sound.
Oh, Bionic Man.
Yeah.
Gets old real quick.
And the healing thing here, I just want to point out there are healing stations around. Some of the models for them are called hosportals. So that's fun.
Portal. Chris, you get it though?
I don't.
Because
I think I do.
It's like a hospital, but
It's a portal.
but it's like a portal.
But it's not like a portal. Is the
Do you
thing.
get it?
Like you don't go anywhere.
Do you get? You get it though?
So is it like a puzzle game to an extent? Because you're just going back and forth and like opening doors.
There's an element of puzzle to it, and it definitely was pitched in that once you get your sidekicks, there are going to be a lot of puzzles to it. But like to incorporate that Doom feel still.
Once you get your sidekicks?
Yeah, because there are 2 sidekicks that are featured heavily in the marketing for this game. We're about to meet one of them.
Is one of them the daughter?
One of them is the daughter, Mikiko.
Well, Frank, hopefully he doesn't just blow her brains out. Promises he sees her. And why is Mikiko the daughter at the crematorium? Is there any
She knows how to use the sword.
explanation
Well,
at all?
it was the way to get into the headquarters was through the crematorium. That was the
okay.
the premise that we were given.
So are we?
We're in the headquarters
headquarters
now.
now
You're in the
proper?
prison block now. Yes, you have made it from the part of the crematorium to the headquarters in the prison. Yeah.
I hate the loading thing.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah, I hate
loud.
that too. The first
It
time
was
did
like-
I was like, why?
I liked it at first. I thought it was like, wow, this is like kitschy. It's
I just don't get the idea of like I feel like
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Screens are something that you don't want to draw attention to.
Yeah.
You know, and like here they're making a point to be like, hey, look it, this is it as it goes. Having an audio cue, I don't get it.
We have yet to experience, as we're playing, what sidekicks actually are in this game, but maybe a little spoiler. We're going to talk about the worst sidekicks that are in video games. I've got a few lists from Twinfinite, thegamer.com. Yeah, but you guys want to suggest any worst sidekicks in games?
Hands down, I know them one.
What you got?
Resident Evil 4.
Yes, Ashley in Resident Evil 4 is on most of the lists. Yeah. You're playing Leon, and it feels like most of the game is you giving her commands about stay here, go do this.
And that is a phenomenal game. It is genuinely scary. It's a great game, and when you get to the point where you're dealing with Ashley, it is just awful. It's so bad. And she makes decisions, like the AI makes decisions that's just like borderline suicidal.
Yeah, no, it's a chore to keep them alive. Like, they're on a suicide mission, and it's your job to protect them.
I'm sure there are many other like quests like that will be brought up here, but I really feel like she's the worst.
Roman Bellic from GTA 4. The AI teammates in Left 4 Dead. Yeah, they're if you're not playing online with real people, they're constantly getting themselves all jammed up and going the wrong places.
I'm trying to think of other ones.
I know it's Doom and Wolfenstein, but they're all so dark. Like, what works great in early 3D engines is colors, like Super Mario. And you'll see when we take a look at the 64 version that, man, it's I don't know, it's all so drab, and it's not a lot of fun to look at, given there are a few different eras. Anyway, some more people on that list. Navi from Ocarina of Time made the list.
How dare they? How dare they? Are you
Listen.
for real?
Hey!
No.
It's just because you like that game, Tom.
I'm sorry. Well, one,
She's
that's actually the
annoying
highest
as
rated
shit.
game. No, that's
When you're
the
trying to
highest
speed
rated
run it.
game of all time.
Yeah.
It is the highest rated game of all time. Navi is awesome. No, I do not agree. That should not be on the list.
What the fuck is that thing?
So we've run into this character. We don't know what we're looking at.
Thanks. Yeah. She's a hot one. Feisty too. Gave Mishima schools a run for their money before they finally chased her down.
All right, so we have run into our first sidekick here. Best guesses for what his name is.
Business.
It's the most potentially offensive. It leans into the blaxploitation of it all. Close.
What'd you guess, Frank?
Blackie McBlackerson.
Well, obviously,
Joe
it would be
Black?
something dark, maybe.
Sort of.
I'm gonna say dark or night, midnight.
The character that you rescue here, if you're ready for it, his name is Superfly Johnson.
Oh,
And
Wow.
they don't like treat
that's
it as
worse
if
than
it's
what
a
we
joke.
guessed.
They just like, no, that's his name, and like we're just moving on, playing the game. It's never like acknowledged as like an in joke or anything. It's just that's this character's name.
no, that's offensive. That's more
Yeah.
offensive than the offensive things we were thinking of.
All right, well, some other sidekicks here. Let's run through. Natalia in GoldenEye. There is, to be fair, one level that it's an escort style mission. If you remember, like she's working on the big control panel while there's some Ruskies running in from either side, and you've got to defend her. So it's anytime you got to do an escort and they can die and it ends your game. That's frustrating. Slippy from Star Fox. A lot of people hating on Slippy. Mr. Rossetti from Animal Crossing. I don't think Mr. Rossetti's in the new game, is he?
They said they weren't going to put him in it, but I think they actually did put him in it as like a real minor role.
He's probably, I'm sure he's hidden somewhere. Yeah, no, Mr. Rossetti was a mole who would pop up and just yell at you to make sure to save, and it became a joke. Well, I think there was something he did if you altered your game system's time or started a game, quit a game without saving, he would start yelling at you. So it was just like an angry Nintendo character that would yell at you.
I like how it said when you die, it says Miyamoto failed at life.
Failed at life, yeah. Yeah, there is some
They're
like
just trying to be
tongue-in-cheek
a
kind
little
of
dig.
When you quit the game, one of the messages, I think it's like, are you sure you want to quit? One of the messages is, we're going to prod or stir the monsters up real bad while you're gone, so they'll be extra angry when you come back. Like, there's some like lighthearted tongue-in-cheekness with it, but that only works like if the game's good. Otherwise, it's just like it's trying really hard on top of a bad game, so it doesn't come across very well. If any big Gears of War fans out there, the Carmine family was mentioned in the list of sidekicks. That
that sidekicks that they don't like?
Yeah, I don't remember all that well, but I guess
the whole point of
that's the joke of them. But I guess there are some escort missions of them, right, where you have to make sure they don't die until one of them does die. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't remember that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember that. I just remember that, like, the classic thing about the Carmines is that they do die.
Right. Yeah, and if you, in case you're wondering why there's a bunch of Xbox Avatar gear out there, they did a whole thing where they sold shirts that had shirts that said "Save Carmine" or "Carmine must die" in the lead up to Gears of War 3, because they were deciding whether he lived or died, the last brother of the Carmine family.
You could vote.
Yeah, you voted, and he ended up, Clayton Carmine ended up surviving Gears of War 3.
I can't leave without my buddy Superfly.
My buddy Superfly.
Yeah, so that I can't leave without my buddy Superfly became a bit of a meme back in 2000 when this game came out.
World of Warcraft had some pretty bad escort quest mechanics.
Oh yeah, I guess it did.
They always walked faster than you walked, but if you ran, they were slower.
Right, so there was no good in between. So Superfly here used to be the head of security until he spoke up and was labeled with insubordination and is being tortured. So yeah, this whole prison they're just doing experiments to test limits of torture, just classic super evil bad guy stuff. Some lists put Claptrap on there from Borderlands, and they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong about that.
100%.
I mean, maybe in the later ones, I don't know. I've only played the first two.
People are crazy.
Yeah.
They changed the voice actor for 3.
Yeah, no,
Do
he
you
was...
ever even have to keep him alive? You don't.
No, you definitely don't have to keep him alive. Some of these lists were like worthless sidekicks or something like that, but no, Claptrap is 100% necessary.
It's like really meta.
Yes. Yeah, and it's on top of a good game.
Ashley.
The dog from Duck Hunt made a lot of lists, and
what?
He laughs at you, to be fair.
I was thought that was
It
kind
lowers
of like
your self-esteem.
And the last one was Daxter from Jack and Daxter, which I played those games. I liked those games. I don't recall having any strong emotions about Daxter, but I'm uploading a picture of him to the group chat right now, and I can... just his picture does annoy me. He's kind of like a Timon-like comic relief character. So yeah, we've only looked at this one era here, 2455, but I think I really like the idea of jumping through eras in a game, like using different weapons from different eras. We've actually done a game like that before, Jurassic the Hunted.
A dinosaur game.
Yeah. The best game that we played on this podcast
was that it didn't do it
take it far enough. Yeah.
Does this game take it further?
I don't think that it does. No, they promised a ton of weapons in this game, but the amount of guns that you have right now is about how many guns you get in each era, which is like 5. Frank, if you want to save your game and you can jump out of it, we're going to...
If you leave now, I'll start working on summoning a Shoggoth to come tear you apart while you sleep. Is that okay? Yes.
Very funny. Yeah, so we saw the intro, the 11-minute intro here. This evil lord corporation who's ruling the world, controlling the vaccine for a viral plague in the viral plague that went loose in 2030, which feels timely. And he's using it to control the world's population. And then you go and you rescue the daughter. I did want to show you guys what it looked like on Nintendo 64. So strap in. I'm sending this to the group chat here.
This is the N64?
This is the N64 version that we're watching now. So we saw the cutscene on the PC, and there is no dialogue on Nintendo 64. It's like no voiceover dialogue. It's all subtitles in vibrant pink text sometimes. Real choppy frame rate.
Worse?
It looks so much worse.
His head is like... Ooh, this is gnarly, boy.
Yeah, I think that's pretty... Oh my god.
Definitely like the music.
And it's even a different cutscene. Like he fights. in a very surprising way. Are you ready?
Is, I like
He
this better.
disappears and reappears on his sword. Yeah.
How does he get knocked out? He was such a badass.
Oh, what?
He tosses the sword aside. Yeah, so in the 64 version, he is doing like 2 frames a second, jumping through the air, knocking people out.
To be fair, this is what it should have been, though.
This is better.
like he's a badass. Of course, he would not be taken out by these 3 thugs. Wait, how did he even get hurt?
He
The guy
was
really
injured in
threatened
the
to hurt
struggle
him.
somehow, and he does end up dying, so you have to find the daughter.
very
And
frail.
just so you can see what the gameplay looks like on 64, go ahead and jump to like a 14-minute mark and just look at what that looks like real quick.
Oh wow, yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Everything's
honestly,
all
it hurts
faded.
my eyes.
Yeah, everything's very, muted.
It's so blocky. It's so much blockier. I don't like.
Yeah, so as we played, Hero storms Mishima's headquarters where he rescues Mikiko as well as Superfly Johnson, the head of security who rebelled when he got sick of Mishima's totalitarian practices. That's the first sentence. That's how far we got. Mikiko and Superfly join Hero in his quest to steal the Daikatana. Real quick, we'll take a quick look at the boss fight. This room that you go into, there's like giant mega brains on the wall that are overlooking the Daikatana. So that's the first boss fight we're gonna do here, and there are like 2 little like devil dogs that pop up as you're trying to grab the Daikatana. Yeah, we're watching now. This is what happens when you go and grab the Daikatana.
Oh, you have both of your friends by now.
Yes, you have Mikiko and Superfly.
And he's got another Daikatana.
But that's not possible.
Oh, buddy.
Right, so Mishima appears, and he's got another Daikatana. He's talking in whispers, so listen close.
And alternate timelines. You see, I was visiting the year 2030 when I sensed a disturbance in the time continuum.
We're not even gonna try to deal with time travel correctly.
It's one of those things that happens when you got alternate timelines.
Fortunately for me, your presence
So he can
here,
feel us touch the Daikatana in the time stream.
and one that I can quickly dispose of at that.
Hollow words, Butcher. Your reign of terror is coming to an end.
These 2 swords are actually one and the same. If they were ever to cross or touch in any way, the world as we know it would cease to exist, and we would all be destroyed.
Touch the sword.
Do you
Touch the
dare
sword.
risk that?
You can't hide
It
behind
just,
shield.
Touch tips. Touch tips.
Face me
sword
on equal
fight.
terms. And we'll see who's...
At the mercy of the ultimate prison. Time.
So the line he delivers there is, "I'll banish you to the ultimate prison, ... time." And then immediately Hero goes, "No!" I like to think
Look,
it could have
he
been
knows
anything
what's
else
gonna
like
happen.
space. Okay, I like space. So yes, Mishima banished us to a different time. And
How would you know that? He's just in a mountain right now.
right.
Like you'd be like, this mountain couldn't have existed in my time.
I definitely know this is the 1400s or 1200s,
Well,
yeah.
To be fair, they probably destroyed all the mountains in the future.
So yeah, there's a whole different system of gaining health here. You start with the Daikatana and you get the discus. It's hard to use the sword. The environment's different, it's catacombs and skeletons. It's a big difference.
It is cool that they switched up the environment.
Yeah.
The skeleton seems stupid.
They make nice little like biting into apple sounds when you kill them. You end up fighting Medusa and recharging the Daikatana from Medusa's power.
Of course.
As you would. The 3 time jump once again with that power because the Daikatana can control time and you just sort of use it to warp through time. Yeah, so we're warping through time and sort of just floating in between time and space, and Mishima found us. Now we're jabbing at each other.
Nice try,
I don't know why,
Hero.
because that would end
But your
everything, right?
control of the Daikatana's mystical properties is limited.
We're swinging swords at each
best.
other.
And no mere
That could
novice
potentially end
is
all of
going
time.
to take down a master.
Yeah, so Mishima found us in the time stream. I guess it's a thing he can do as we travel through time. He can find us.
We'll see about that.
Now, we saw what that looked like on the PC version, but we'll take a quick look at what it looks like in the 64 version, all right?
Very psychedelic.
Mishima!
I
What
have
is
never
going
seen
on?
a worse combination of colors. It looks
I love it.
it looks terrible. The background of us traveling through time and space is like orange, pink, and yellow, and like
This
a
is where we
psychedelic
make a
kind of
420
swirl.
joke.
Oh yeah, here we are on 420.
And he's wearing a suit. It's not. He's not wearing
Yeah,
his
Mishima looks a
armor.
lot different in the 64 version. Yeah, he has like samurai armor,
Yeah, why'd they put him in a suit instead of a samurai outfit?
and they're doing weird slow-mo kicks to each other's stomachs as they glide towards each other.
Right, so he almost exists at all times.
Right. Outside of time.
As a Time Lord.
Yeah, the dragons are later, sorry. That's okay. That's how we get sent to the third era. The third era is...
So it just happens again? Like they go to travel and then he's like, no, and sends him somewhere.
It kind of keeps happening. Okay, so the group finds a sorcerer named... we go to 560 AD in the Dark Ages in Norway. And we go to this town, and it seems like there's a bunch of zombies there, all right? So we're going to watch the cutscene once we find refuge in a church. So we are running away from the village.
Hey, a church. This is the safest looking
Bad
place
ever
around
happens
here.
in church.
Let's go in.
So I'm going to remind you, they were like big zombie things.
Those things give me the creeps.
That's not all they'll give you if you're not careful. Ever hear of the bubonic plague? Stuff's highly contagious. Whole damn village seems to be
They're
infested.
just
So
sick
I don't
people.
know what his perception of the bubonic plague is, but they were zombies that
fun
were like
fact,
teleporting.
Bubonic plague. Everybody thought that was the rats. It was actually the fleas.
Yeah, I have heard that before. It's fun.
Yeah, the fleas.
And the lice. Yeah.
Land.
Never have I seen such a weapon as
Good thing they all speak English.
You'd say that.
We're on a quest from God.
Of a noble nature? No.
Not so
really.
much.
We're just looking to get fucked up tonight.
Honestly, this old dude just showed up at my place, and I just kind of coasted ever since.
Musilde is one of the ugliest character models I have ever seen in my life.
It's just, what's wrong with his face? His hair's all fucked up in the back. It's just like, come on, guys.
It just looks like the middle of his nose is a black hole just sucking the rest of his face in.
Now that we're in the third era, he gives you the most, like, as we were talking before about, here's a beginner quest kind of thing, that 10 minutes of exposition to say that, like, yeah, we had a king who went mad. He destroyed a purifier that could save the whole village. So I need you to go around and collect the 7 pieces of the purifier. But before you do that, there's another door I need you to open. There's 4 pieces of this door. And then he starts sending you on, like, go to this level, this level, this level. So, yeah, I mean, you get here and it sucks all the fun. If there was any fun in the game, it feels like it really sucks the fun out of the era of this game. And the weapons here, you know, I guess they're accurate for the time, but I don't know. It's like crossbows.
Yeah, but what's the first weapon you get? I just fast forward a little bit. What's the first weapon? It's a claw hand.
Oh, it's the silver hand is the weapon you get. And that's the thing that can permanently kill the bubonoids, I believe they call them, which is someone who's been affected by the bubonic plague. And just so you guys know, the bubonic plague, it caused like cysts on you, and it gave you flu-like symptoms, and you just died. You didn't turn into a zombie.
Yeah, these things are like
Anyway.
lizard monsters. I thought it was
I'm
like
piling on to poor John Romero.
I thought it was like a Fallout 3 Death Claw hand weapon thing. That's what it looked like to me.
So, yeah, you restore King Gareth's sanity, and he recharges the Daikatana. Hero and his allies jump through time again and leave the era. I mentioned there's a dragon fight on Nintendo 64.
Wow, this dragon fight's pretty intense.
One of them's Charmander. Oh, not Charmander, Charizard.
Actually,
It does
yeah.
look like Charizard. You know, it might have just used the Charizard model, because you know what game came out
Pokemon Stadium.
on Nintendo 64 in 2000? Pokemon Stadium, that's right.
No
It really does
way.
look ridiculously
Wow.
like Charizard.
This game is garbage then, because Pokemon Stadium actually looked good.
Yeah. Yeah, so what happened in this dragon fight was that, like, for some reason, Hero realized that he could summon a dragon, and Mishima was like, what? I guess I can summon a dragon too, and they summoned dragons to fight each other. They end up making it to the year 2030. Take a quick peek at what the gameplay in the year 2030 looks like. So San Francisco in the year 2030 has fallen to gangs, and martial law has been declared.
You just shooting black guys?
You are, and you have a Glock. Very nice. You fight your way to a naval base where you confront Mishima, who's working on weapons. The ghost of Usagi enters Hiro's body and gives him full control of the Daikatana. And with Usagi's knowledge and skills with the sword, Hiro slays Mishima. And one of the Daikatana disappears as its timeline no longer exists. So most of this plot I'm grabbing from just straight out of Wikipedia. So credit to Wikipedia.
Donate $3 today.
You know what? I donated money to Wikipedia once a long time ago, and I feel like now all their content is mine, so I can say everything that's on Wikipedia as much as I want.
I think that's how it works, yeah.
Pretty sure.
You've put me through an awful lot of trouble, Hero. Still allying yourself with the rabble, I see.
He's close to the claw voice, too.
It doesn't become someone with your ancestors.
Like, oh, you're teaming up with them. It's like, well, this whole time you've been kind of really negative towards me, bud.
Riff-raff my ass. You and I got an old score to settle, boss man. And now it's payback time.
No one was speaking to you, you savage brute. You should learn to keep your place.
Whoa, why would we just let them hit our...
She's not even trying to defend them.
Gotta get rid of the side. He just stabbed her between the legs.
What the hell? Just touch the swords and fuck everything up.
Mishima is Hero, but older.
Not a chance.
Ooh.
Honor demands retribution for the atrocities committed by
that'd
you
be epic.
and your...
You know, this game has so much exposition for a game that feels like it's like rapid, you know, quick style gameplay. The cutscenes are so long, and you just don't care about the...
Well, it's because they didn't bother putting any of the story in the gameplay itself.
They just sort of like wildly swing with the most powerful swords in the universe at each other.
I can't. Not while the blood of Usagi and all the other Miyamoto sits and before he runs through my veins.
All right, so we're taking the Daikatana because Hiro has an idea, and we're doing these slow camera shots of them running through hallways for some reason, because it looks great when the character models run across the floor.
So what exactly do you have in mind, Hero? Hey, wait a minute. You're not thinking of doing what I think you're thinking, are you?
What?
You're not thinking
what I'm thinking. You're thinking that I knew you were thinking about.
Tapping into it may be our only choice.
That's crazy.
I can't emphasize how bad these character models look.
Superfly looks like Melt Man from the old Kablam.
Yeah.
The fusion cylinder should do the trick.
You know, maybe that's what made Ocarina of Time so good, is that, or something that made it work so much better, is that Link didn't have to talk. So we never had to see his head bob around trying to sync it up to voiceovers.
Have a little faith, Superfly.
Faith. Faith is for fools who won't listen to reason.
Jesus, come on.
Not much of a spiritual man, are you?
Considering the life I've led and the horrors
I'm
I've
going to tell you about it for 15 minutes.
Wait, they could have had him talking while they were running through levels shooting.
No.
Something's wrong.
We need this exposition here.
Something's definitely wrong. What the...
And we've already beaten
Yeah.
the main enemy, right?
Where'd the
That's a
what go?
stupid zoom.
The Daikatana. It's gone.
What? How is that?
What? Oh no! No,
Yeah, Mikiko kills Superfly.
Sorry, Hero.
Spoiler for
One isn't
Daikatana,
quite
the
fair.
2000 game.
My God. What have you done?
You've seen what the Daikatana can do. Tasted its power firsthand. How can you resist it? It's absolutely...
She sounds more Jamaican than Japanese. Tasted its power firsthand.
Kissed a girl.
God feels like.
So, Yeah, I mean, she's going to do a bunch of exposition here, but the short of it is she's saying that the Ibiharas were just as bad as the Mishimas, and now that she's seen the power of it, I mean, the goal was always for them, the Ibiharas, to get control of it, and they change it a little bit. Like, no, it wasn't actually
just as bad as the Mishimas.
Yeah, they changed. She says that the story that you originally heard was wrong, that it wasn't actually Usagi, like your ancestor, that destroyed the sword. Like, the Ibihara fell, or they tried to steal the sword, but they struggled over the sword and they fell into the volcano. Anyway, the point is, like, yeah, she's on the bad side, so she's one of the baddies. So you have to fight her. We're jumping to after the fight now.
Look at her body.
So he said, Hero says it didn't have to come to this.
Maybe it won't have to.
And then says maybe it won't have to.
Gonna go back in time.
So what we're looking at now is Makiko's father, who's not dead now, and it's Makiko and Superfly who are reporting back after a mission, who are trying to find out some information about a sword, but they were unsuccessful. So it's an alternate timeline where they never found the Daikatana.
Maybe that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
And they're commenting that maybe it's a good thing that we never found the sword.
Maybe worse than any of us realize.
Security Chief Johnson speaks wisely. We should stop wasting.
Use his first name, Superfly.
Chasing phantoms when there are more pressing concerns to attend to.
What can be more pressing?
He has 4 points in acrobatics. He can levitate.
Wow.
All right, now we're slowly panning over a marsh. Yeah, some textures from the marsh. So there's a tiny little house.
Got a Mona Lisa.
Oh, the Mona Lisa.
With the Mona Lisa, another weapon of mass destruction that Hero had to confiscate. And he's here. He has some weapons and deep underground in a tunnel.
The Daikatana, I assume.
To put the Daikatana in a glass case deep under the earth. All right, so that's the end of the game. Although I will read that from the Wikipedia plot, it says that so Hero defeats Makiko, then uses the Daikatana to fix history once and for all, which is very subjective. They keep saying like the things the way history was meant to be, but the Daikatana is never found in 2455. The viral plague is cured in 2030 as it was meant to be. The Mishima never take control of the world, and Hero exiles himself to a forgotten corner of the space-time continuum, safeguarding the Daikatana to ensure that it never falls into the hands of evil. So that's our game, Daikatana. Any big impressions there?
I mean,
Frank, since you played it.
The gameplay, I mean, it was just like a Quake game. You know what I mean? The only thing I could see being aggravating is the saving system. You know, and how you need to collect a crystal to save. You know, it seemed like overall it wasn't the worst game ever. I don't know if I wanted to ever play through the whole entire thing. It was honestly, it was a better shooter than Half-Life was. And I was better at traversing and doing
interesting
level like platforming, because there was some platforming I did in Half-Life yesterday, and it was easier to do in this. If I had to pick between play this or play Half-Life, I'd play this over Half-Life.
No kidding!
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I disagree personally,
but I mean, it just, you know.
Yeah, Half-Life, to be fair, did come out in 1998, but I feel like this game's tech is about 1998.
I gotta be honest, just from watching it, I feel like there's some games that just like they land perfectly where they're on like the cutting edge of what is new and good.
Yeah.
And then like some fall behind, and like by the time they come out, they're just like not as relevant anymore. And Daikatana feels more a victim of that than anything else. Like the plot's kind of stupid, but like outside of that, like it's not like it's just this awful game. It was just behind what it should have been for its competition.
Yeah, and now we can play it with some sort of like filter of nostalgia, right? And we're not exactly sure. Like in 2000, was this okay in 2000? But I don't know. Still, like most of the textures, the people's faces, everything looks like garbage, and it's hard to get past that for me. Even if that was like okay at the time.
Yeah, everyone does look very
So most games these days are never like truly in their final form. The 64 version of this game was when it came out, I suppose, but like PC games are obviously regularly getting updated, and Daikatana was no exception to that. This version that you can get on Steam right now is actually a better version of the game. This is 1.2. But that brings me to a group of Daikatana super fans out there. One in particular from Germany. Maybe he likes taking buses, who can say? But PC Gamer has a really interesting article titled Meet the Super Fans Who Spent a Decade Bringing Daikatana Back to Life. Yeah, it's a really interesting article if you're into that kind of thing, but he was committed to making Daikatana the best version it could be. It goes through this group's journey of self-taught coding, sending a hard drive to John Romero, and he put the original source code on it for them and sent it back, and then they had problems compiling it, and it took them like years to work with the original source files again. And they actually have a community that plays online every weekend, and maybe I'll jump on with them. In December 2019, they released the latest version.
Still now?
Yes. In December 2019, they released the latest 1.3 patch for this game, and I'm actually going to launch it on my screen. Much higher resolution. They've done a ton of changes with this, including the ability to turn sidekicks on and off.
It definitely looks nicer.
It's a Steam broadcast, so it looks like, what it looks like, but it looks appropriate on this in 2020 now. Like it's higher res textures as well as running in full resolution your monitor can support.
It looks good.
Do the teammates die? Is that a thing?
Yes, that's the biggest problem with the teammates is that they get in the way. We saw on Frank's screen that Superfly punched and killed something. I had never seen any of my sidekicks through hours of playing this game ever do any damage. So yeah, it's a problem. They die very easily. It seemed like part of the pitch for the game was that they're there with you and they're helping you solve puzzles. And yet, me playing through the entire game, I can only recall one thing where it was like, okay, I need my teammate to stand on this button while I go do something. The rest of it, like, no, didn't need them. Yeah, just did not need them. With the implementation of 1.3 patch, it is now very possible and somewhat enjoyable to do speedruns, which fits this kind of game well, right? Like for a Quake Doom style game. So you can go ahead and start up that speedrun and just watch what it looks like. I don't know what it is about speedruns. I find myself watching speedrun videos and I'm like, wow, they did that section in 23 seconds. I'm like, wait a second. I've never played this game before. I don't know if that's good, but I like watching speedruns anyway.
It does seem like he's moving much faster.
Yeah. No, he's doing a bunny hop thing that keeps your character at a faster speed. You guys into any speedruns? Ever thought you've been good enough at a game to do a speedrun in it?
Oh no. I mean, I've watched them, but
I've never tried them, but I like watching them.
I don't have the patience.
Yeah, I like watching them too.
I like watching the videos where they figure out the glitch that jumps the time from
Yeah, I love Ocarina glitches.
23 minutes. But yeah, I love how they figure them out and then how it takes people like months to figure out exactly which frame and where to clip and everything.
I only have one other note here. It's just I thought I'd mention, since they treat the bubonic plague as if it turns people into zombies.
True fact.
And we see it in an area that they call the 1400s. It was also called the Black Death, Pestilence, or the Plague. It swept across Eurasia and North Africa, killing 75 to 200 million people, peaking from 1347 to 1351. So not 1400s. It was the 14th century, but not the 1400s as this game would have you believe. They didn't really understand germs or diseases, but they did coin the term quarantine during this period. Any guesses what that means?
What, 40? Or, yeah, it's like 40
Yes,
days.
Very good, Hunter. Yeah, so it comes from the term quarantena, which is Venetian language meaning 40 days, which is what they would impose upon travelers. There was also a tritena, which was used in Damascus for a 30-day waiting period.
Just imagine you've been
it's a fun fact, right?
You've been on a boat for like months crossing oceans.
You've got scurvy.
And then you get to port and you're like, oh, I'm so ready to stretch my legs in 40 days when they let me off this boat.
Yeah, but either way, yeah, they just died of bubonic plague, not grosso, low-quality texture zombies with that teleport around and you can't kill unless you have silver hand. But that's, as far as I know, there's no records from that time. No, there's plenty of records. So we didn't really get to experience the problems with sidekicks, but that was really what a lot of people leaned into, the issues with this game, how problematic they were and how annoying they were that they would die. And people also hated on the save system, the giving yourself crystals crystals. I think even if they just didn't have crystals at all, and it was like you just got to get from one, transition to another, and that's your save point, that would have been better than. But also, I didn't find the game super difficult. I don't know how you felt it was, Frank. I mean, we saw you die a few times, but it's not like it was like, oh, I can't possibly finish this game. It's so difficult.
It was,
it's nothing like that.
I really feel like, if I paid more attention and kind of focused a little bit, it really could have been a breeze for the most part.
Yeah.
Once you kind of figure out things, it's not that complicated a game.
Any thoughts on the plot? Enjoy the time travel aspects?
I think anytime you introduce time travel, like, I don't know, you know it's going to get convoluted. And I mean, we didn't get to fully dive into the kind of different weapon enemies, in which case, like, maybe it nailed it. Did it? Chris, do you know?
I can tell you a few of the weapons. So from the ancient Greece era, you had that throwing disc. You get a Eye of Zeus staff, which fires lightning bolts in all directions. Usually at your ally and killing them instantly. Again, that's a common theme throughout the weapons in this game, that like they'll usually kill you and your ally. You also get Poseidon's trident, which fires like poison darts. And there's some projectiles you get in that era also. Then in the Dark Ages, you have a ballista, a bolter, which is like Van Helsing's crossbow. And then you have a couple staffs that do like insanely powerful things. But again, mostly just end up killing you again. And then in the near future San Fran, which is 2030, you get a Glock 2020, you get a pulse rifle, and then there's a minigun that looks like it's straight out of Doom. So that's all the weapons that are in this game. I think it was a total of 30 weapons or so.
Maybe I feel like we've said this before, but if you're gonna go time travel, you could have gotten more distinct, right?
I think we might have, the speed run we're watching in the background, I think I already got past it. You go from the crematorium through the processing center. The processing center, it turns out that they're making McMishima burgers out of human. So that's the big reveal. That's, I think, supposed to be shocking and be like, wow, this game's so gory. It's going places I couldn't imagine. And it's just
where
Soylent Green is people.
Soylent Green.
Any other thoughts on the graphics, the audio, the RPG elements of it?
The RPG elements are kind of near non-existent, given that, you were saying that like it barely makes a difference when you do each upgrade. And
that's just not my opinion. That's everyone said that.
RPG doesn't simply mean upgrading certain elements. It's a role-playing game.
Yeah,
so
you have a set character. You're not like creating your own role.
Exactly.
Right.
Ideally, in a role-playing game, like you would be making some choices that would, definitively describe like your own character in this game.
This is just like a first-person story-driven shooter.
Oh, you know what? I forgot. There is something you guys can win today. I thought it closely
Is it a real
embodied
katana from feudal Japan?
I found a 3D model of a trash can and printed it on the lowest resolution allowable for my 3D printer.
Yeah, it looks real nasty.
I have a 1/8-inch size poster of John Romero's About to Make You His Bitch that can be inserted inside the trash can.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that is the award for this evening.
Oh man!
And I printed it at the very last minute, much like this game, and I had to rush it on low textures, much like this game. So I think it's appropriate. The Metacritic score. Oh, this is for the 64 version.
It's out of 100, right?
Out of 100 for the 64 version. Yes, it only has 3 reviews.
I'm going to say 32.
32. Hunter, what you got over there?
I'll go 20.
Frank, what do you think?
I'm going 10.
Wow, 10. Well, he has picked back up maybe on a new streak. Tom, congratulations. It was 39 was the average review on Metacritic. And I've actually got the, I pulled my May 2000 issue of EGM magazine, and they also have a Daikatana review here. The 4 reviews they have here by Crispin, Shu, Sean, and John are all very confused that this game came out before the PC version and seems to be worse in all ways than the PC version. Shu, who gave it a 3.0, said, if action games can get any more dry, monotonous, and annoying than this, then kill me now, please. Daikatana falls way short of the mark. The levels are drab, unimaginative. The action and gameplay have plenty to be desired. You can salvage a lousy single-player experience by pumping it up with cool multiplayer features, but that is something this game definitely does not have. The options and no variety mean no good score for this poop. All right, and for a section called Someone Else's Treasure, it holds of 4 on Amazon. 46% are 5-star. From Steam, though, we have a review by a gentleman named Fernando N. He says, "Listen, everyone, this is the best game ever. All those freaky guys that write bad about the game, they don't know anything. I think they're using drugs to say something like that." Then, several months later, 7 years later, we have Fernando F, who says, "I agree with Fernando N. This is one of the best games I've ever played. The game graphics and sound are simply unparalleled. There may be a few glitches in AI, but it's still the most addictive game I've ever played. Seriously, those that gave a bad score, get a clue." There are quite a few reviews, both on Amazon and Steam, that talk about the 1.3 version, what we looked at, best version of the game that's out there. One more review from Amazon here, from Steven. He says, "Always good for a laugh. For years, my best friend and I have been embroiled in a rivalry of prank exchanges involving this game. For holidays, we would buy copies and hide our real gifts inside the box, finding whatever clever way to fool the other one. One year, I put in Daikatana inside of an empty 360 box. It's been our Rickroll of gifting." So, Frank, that's why I've given you this game, because we do have a continuing thing of me giving you action figures from Phantom Menace every Christmas. So I thought I could give you one more crappy gift. Yeah, and now that you share a household with your wife, and she has to make room for terrible Star Wars gifts, this is something that won't take up room in your house.
It's on my hard drive.
It's just on your PC.
It's gonna take up time because he's gonna start playing it.
I gotta be this guy's speed
Start
run. I'm seeing a lot of things he's slacking on here. I really could chop off some time.
There's not a lot of competition, so yeah. So that's the end of Daikatana notes I have here. Well, it's time to give the game a Garbage Valley score, and as a quick explanation, you can rate the games on a 0 to 10 scale. 0 being completely worthless and a waste of your time. It has no enjoyment. You have your 10s that are masterpieces, Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye at the time maybe. And you have your garbage. That's a 0. But sometimes when a game becomes so bad it's enjoyable again, it circles back around to be a -10. You can just get just as much enjoyment as you would out of Ocarina, but because it's so bad, you're enjoying how bad the game is. So, guys, what do you think?
I'm going to say a positive 3. I do think that the time traveling idea and using different weapons is like a cool idea, and like him trying to have radically different maps is a cool idea. I just think that like it just didn't hit the mark that it should have hit, Yeah. And it just didn't hit any mark that it should have. So
right. Yeah.
3.
Hunter?
That's me. 3.
I think I'd have to go around like a 4 or 5, honestly. Like,
wow.
Again, not having played it, it's kind of hard to judge it on the
Feel
controls.
it.
So I'm just judging it by what I saw and what we talked about. I love time travel, anything to begin with. Some of my favorite movies are time travel movies. Some like my favorite games deal with the same kind of concept. So that off the bat's fun. The story, I guess, if we rate it separately, the story is what I would give like a -5 to, because I feel like the story is straight up just like so bad it's good. They're like, this is a time traveling Daikatana. It's like what's it, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3? And they go back to feudal era Japan. Yeah.
I think 3, yeah.
So like I love those kinds of movies, and I appreciate
that's a great movie.
I appreciate the so bad that it's good kind of like idea of just like we're in the future, we've been to the past, we've got a katana that lets us travel through time. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. And I almost feel like maybe John Romero kind of had that in mind, where it's just like nobody's gonna care about the story of this game.
Maybe.
We're just gonna make
it seems like they put a lot of effort into it because parts of it were so long, but yeah, no, there seems to be like a tongue-in-cheekness of it that like who knows how time travel works, and they just don't care.
If you really put the effort of the story into the game, I feel like you would have it told throughout the game and throughout the gameplay, and not as like 10-minute expositions every, once you're done with the fun part of the game, now it's time to watch a video about what you just did and what you're about to do. When you told me to play Doom, I was like, all right, I guess you were like, play it for 5 minutes. And I was just like, am I going to even be able to like sit here and play this game for 5? And I've played it for like, I think an hour now. And like, I might actually go back, because I was like, I think I got like halfway through, but I could see myself at least being like, well, I started this and I kind of want to see where it goes. and I want to see these trippy dragon fights. And
the main negative to me, which we didn't really get to experience, was the sidekicks. It's just so often you'd be running around like, okay, I'm doing pretty well in this level, and you just didn't know that your sidekick got surrounded by bad guys because they're so bad at following you. And then like, okay, maybe I need them for this puzzle. And like, oh, I found the end of the level, but where are they? Why can't I open a door to let them in here? Was that part of the level design? Or is it just complete lack of level design? Yeah, that was the most frustrating part to me. I played a lot of it. I didn't enjoy a ton of it. I thought parts of it were funny because like the dialogue was so bad, and the 64 version I think would get a lot more enjoyment, like bad enjoyment out of it. But yeah, but that's for me. I think I would have to give it like a -2 as well.
That's one of the things that's different about like this whole quarantine thing is usually you play the whole game and you have like a bunch of save files and we can kind of play each aspect. We didn't make it to the terrible, horrible sidekicks, and that could have altered, it goes from being so bad it's fun to just, what is this steaming hot garbage?
Yeah. Frank, you who actually played it this evening?
I don't know. I'm torn. I had no problem with it really for the most part. But for the little part that I did have a sidekick, I could easily see how this could become an issue.
Frank, do you also feel like you're torn by your complete misunderstanding of the Garbage Game Night?
So with that, I have
score system.
A perfect 10. No, I don't know. Do I go negative or do I go positive? I'm really torn because it's really, as far as gameplay wise, it's all kind of positive for the most part. The only negatives are really just the story, the graphics. I mean, thank God we played the PC version. I don't know what I'd do if we played the 64.
Yeah,
the 64
it's hard to get a hold of apparently, just because it's so famously bad.
Yeah. I can
John
understand
Romero did say that that version of the 64 was just utter trash, and he just completely wrote it off. Yeah, so that's interesting insight from him.
He said, "Oh, that hunk of junk."
He made it and sold it to a bunch of people and made money off of it, but he wrote it off, so that's nice.
That's real nice of him. What a swell guy.
But, what was your final score there?
So
don't worry,
this
Frank,
is going down in the books.
Barely even consider your score, buddy.
There's going to be a podcast in 20 years that comes back and looks at our scores.
Got to pick a number. What's your gut say? What's your gut say?
In my life, all right.
I got to be up for work in like 4 hours. So.
Yeah, this recording went way longer than I expected.
I want to do a 4, and I just don't know -4 or +4.
4. Oh wow.
Because it wasn't that bad, but it is bad. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's actually I'm gonna take some points off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. But I did see a shark in one level, so I'm gonna add some points back for the shark. So
okay.
I think when we plus and minus points,
carry the 2.
Yeah, and. There was a guy named Superfly
Johnson.
Superfly Johnson, that's additional points. So I guess after the plus and minusing, I'll go with a 4.
A 4, okay.
Positive 4.
All right, there we have it. There are our scores. Should there be a Daikatana 2? John Romero has been hinting at that he wants to do another FPS. What do you think? Should they bring back Daikatana?
No.
Should they reboot it? Or no?
No, but 1.3
Anything
looks really
from
great. That was a great the guy who did that.
Very easy to install 1.3. I'm gonna try. I think they do games on Sundays. I'm gonna see if I can find when they're doing a game and jump on their multiplayer server.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah, no,
that
it's
could be
too
fun.
too convoluted. Just no.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, yeah, this has been Daikatana, our most famous bad game that we've done on Garbage Game Night. And next episode comes out. I'm really looking forward to it. I have a great idea. We're going to have lots of special guests on here with us. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome.
Wait, hold on a second.
Oh, okay.
There's
What's
still
that?
a trash can.
So who won?
Oh, no. There's still a trash
Every
can.
time we forget.
Every time. Well, you guys don't because you guys know you can be awarded a trash can.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want a trash can and a teeny tiny poster to put in the trash can about this
Who
trash
wouldn't
can?
want a trash can? I wanted to keep it open for anyone, even though there's one player playing the game this evening. But, I think Frank did a good job playing for us this evening. And
I agree.
even eating his hot dogs and mac and cheese or whatever it was.
Put the mac and cheese on the hot dog.
And we didn't hear him chew one time on the... We didn't hear him chew one time on the mic. So for that, I'm going to give Frank the trash can award.
Honestly, I wouldn't...
Aw, so sweet.
I wouldn't take anything from you right now. With everything going on.
Wow.
What's going on?
outside, Chris. There's things
You
going on
would
outside.
accept.
Does Chris have it? Is he
might.
infected?
But,
might have it.
To
You don't
limit
know.
my chances of getting
I've been going out quite a bit too much. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Yeah, you
actually,
guys
I
have.
probably have it. I work like 40 hours a week still.
Yikes.
Yeah, no. The reported
probably
cases
got it.
have gone from like 1,000 a day down to 800 a day, so it's basically gone.
Oh, so we should reopen it now. Let's not
Yes.
get into this political debate. It's 12:20 a.m. as of this.
12:20 a.m. the day after 420. So thank you everyone for joining us on Garbage Game Night.
All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyright Fair Use Exemption for criticism and commentary. Garbage Game Night makes no claims to ownership over any games played and has no affiliation with any developer or publishing company. For additional references on cited articles and quotes, check our episode-related blog at garbagegamenight.com. Or if you have a comment about the game we reviewed or have a suggestion, drop us a line.